An exclusive here on Locked On Nittany Lions as we get to talk to a Penn State wrestling commit and now recent U20 US Open champion about how he won that tournament, why he chose Penn State, and the preparation that goes into being a top-tier wrestler.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and we're doing something different on today's podcast, an exclusive sit-down interview with William Henckel. Thank you so much, as always, for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, the number one Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So yes, our special guest is recent U.S. Open champion in the U20 tournament, William Henckel, Penn State class of 2025 commit. We're going to address a lot of topics, including the U20 US Open, how it all came together for William, talking about his commitment to Penn State, what the process was like, who he is as a wrestler, who he is as a person, a variety of topics that we're going to get into today. So here is that exclusive interview with William, and also bear with me as there was some technical difficulties with the audio, so it is going to sound a little bit different, but I hope you enjoy this one with William Henckel. And it is a privilege to be joined now by U20 US Open champion at 79 kilos, Penn State class of 2025 commit. That is William Henckel joining us here to chat about a very busy weekend, but I imagine you certainly enjoyed it, William.
Yeah, no, very much. Very much.
Well, it's great to have you here. So let's start with that part of the conversation, because it's very recent. The US Open. You just won a US Open title. U20, they now qualify automatically for the best of three at the World Team Trials. Just kind of walk us through the U.S. Open title run. What really clicked for you out in Las Vegas?
Again, I kind of said on an interview, earlier, after I won, just kind of relying on my training. I've been training a while for this. I've come up short multiple times over the past few years in this tournament. So, just preparing for it, and, just having my wrestling feeling fluid, and, my timing on point with my shots and stuff like that. So I think that was really just the main factor, and just like getting after and having fun, there's no stress in that tournament. I was just having fun, letting it fly. So
let me ask you about that. Let me follow up with that, because you talk about how, maybe you felt like you came up short in these tournaments before, but this time around you were able to break through. So what was the difference in the training and the preparation? Was it efficiency? Did you happen to put more time into it? Did you just know what to expect? I think every time I've went to the Open, I've prepared right for it. I think this time I traveled a little bit more. I went down to Princeton a bit more to train with Chance Marsteller, which is a high level guy, senior level guy. So I was training with him a lot, just training with Buxton a lot, and just, I was just hungry to go get it. Not that I haven't been in the past, but, it was just another tournament, and, it was just flowing. It was just happening. So. In order to win that U.S. Open title, you had to beat somebody that was, I guess, a little more experienced than you, right? But you're both in the U20 tournament, so all things are fair when considered. But Brock Mantanona, the guy that you faced in the championship, he has that 1 year at Michigan thus far. How do you mentally prepare for that kind of challenge when you are technically facing someone with a little more experience?
Yeah, he has a little bit more experience in, like the college wrestling scene than I do, obviously, since I'm finishing my senior year of high school. But, I'm training with the best guys already. So, it wasn't really any different. It's the same thing every match. I'm just doing the same thing, going to get it against everybody, no matter who it is. So it was just the same mentality. I think I can beat anybody. So, that was just the mentality.
So then that was my follow-up question. At what moment is it, do you even realize it, maybe because the mentality that you have is just already kind of there, but when do you look at the bracket, do you think of, okay, I know this wrestler, I know what he likes to do, what is it where it sets in and you lock in and say, I can beat anybody in whatever given bracket?
Yeah, I mean, I wrestle like I said, like I don't think it's like I'm watching and seeing what these guys are doing. Obviously I know who these guys are. I knew who Brock was. He's a Michigan wrestler. I watched him wrestle a few duels. Like I'm a student of the sport, so I know who he is. I know who most of these kids are. But I just the things that I do, I believe work against everybody. So I'm just wrestling the same against everybody. So things are they're just working.
We're going to get into the mindset and development a little more. I want to ask you about your commitment to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what made Penn State the right choice for you? Typically, it's always a crowded room. How did you know that Happy Valley and Cale Sanderson were the right place for you to train for a collegiate wrestling?
Well, I mean, I think especially on my visit, like I think what really made it like I wanted to go here was just like, how much they love wrestling, a lot, like obviously like wrestling's a lot about like everybody wants to win and everybody wants to do well. Like nobody wants to lose. Like that's just unrealistic. But, I love wrestling and, I want to make it my life. So it's like the kids in there, they do make it their life and they love it. So, I just kind of saw what I'm about in that room and I just gravitated towards it.
When did you know you were ready to commit? What was it? Did you act on it right away?
I mean, I've always been a fan. I grew up watching Penn State, especially like it was right around that David Taylor era, Ed Ruth, Quentin Wright, like guys like that. So I was already kind of a fan growing up, just that was like the goal. You set high goals and you go chase them. So it's like that was kind of a goal in mind for me. And wherever I fell. But, I think Coach Cale and Coach Casey didn't come to my house originally, like for a home visit until later after my visit. They were the only ones that I was like, they kind of contacted me a little later in the process, like compared to other schools. So, like late August, most schools were like June 15th was the date. So, most of the schools are from June 15th to June 20th. So they contacted me like a little later in the process. And obviously it was a school that, was really good wrestling. So obviously I'm going to consider it. And, everybody else did home visits August. So I was like, I think before like I'm making any commitment, like I think like I'd like it if you guys just came to my house, see what I'm about and have a conversation. So I think after I committed right after the dinner pretty much, so I just, like what they had to say, I like what they were about and, I just saw it in me. So
what other wrestlers, now that you are actually a part of the Penn State class of 2025, you're set to enroll in everything, were there wrestlers that you had more contact with or that you've been able to build relationships with? And maybe that's already in the fellow members of this 2025 class or guys that are at or around your weight, be it Mitchell Messenbrand, Levi Haynes, Josh Barr, guys who technically aren't on the collegiate team anymore, Srirachi, Aaron Brooks, who's been somebody that you've already built prior relationships with.
I think so I was up over the summer. Obviously, like I know like a lot of the kids just from growing up with them. Like I already knew like Tyler Kazak from growing up. I knew Desmond, Blaze, PJ Duke, Cunningham. Like basically my whole class I knew Dalton Perry. So like I've already met them. I think I got to know Messenbrink and Levi a little bit more in the room over the summer, just training with them in the regional training center. So, I kind of got a little bit of a relationship with them. And then the Mirasolas were up there as well as they were just moving in and, like Kyson Garcia. So like a lot of the kids on the team, I'm still in contact with a lot, just kind of knowing them from over the summer. And then obviously the kids in my class, just from going through the process of just wrestling in general, the youth trajectory, I guess. So.
Can you tell us more about this class of 2025? Because it is the top ranked class among the wrestling rankings. I mean, when you have yourself, PJ Duke, you also have Marcus Blaze in there as well. And I could rattle off everybody. Asher Cunningham, who's the son of Coach Cunningham, right? You mentioned Dalton Perry too.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving anybody out in this, but really talented class.
Yeah.
What makes this group so special aside from the talent and the pedigree of everybody coming?
Well, I mean, I think it's just the same mindset, like at the end of the day, we all just love what we do. And I think that's really what matters the most. I also think that, everybody in that class were just good people and we want the best for ourselves, but also the people around us. So, I think we're a positive group of kids that just want to wrestle. And I think that's the most important thing. So, not necessarily chasing like, I don't know. like money, I guess, like, for example, or just chasing the wrestle, get better. So
short-term kind of things.
Yeah. Yep.
No, and that's
Exactly.
Really understandable. And that kind of flows into my next question, the recruiting pitch. Hey, not for the class of 2025 anymore. That's set in stone. But 26, 27, the future.
Yep.
Coach Sanderson and the staff always have to be ready to go because then that next cycle pops up. What would your recruiting pitch be to prospective wrestlers who share those common values that are interested in Penn State? Still to come on this interview here on Locked On Nittany Lions with William. What is the mindset that William has when going into these elite matchups? How does he prepare differently from the competition? Also get to know the personal side of William. That is all coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. You'll get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch for myself, I realized just how much I was spending on things like package deliveries, groceries, dining out. Now I get to budget smarter and save more. You get the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. You'll also get easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
I mean, if you want to be somewhere that, like I said, loves wrestling, or you want to get better at wrestling and just be the best version of you, I think Penn State's the right place for you. I've known, Jaden James just committed to Penn State for the class below me. So I've known him. I've been on teams with him too. And I think, again, I think they know that that's the mentality that Penn State has. So it's like, people gravitate towards that, the kids that want to be at Penn State do well. And those are the kids that are trying to, chase, obviously national titles, but also Olympic and world titles. So, if that's your goals, if that's like your priority, then, that's the right place to be.
All right, let's get to that mindset and that development a little more before we talk about some wrestling style and what the fans really know about William Henckel, the person, wrestler here at this part of our conversation. What separates you mentally from other elite high school wrestlers and guys that are getting ready to start?
I think it's just like, again, I just think that like what separates me a little bit more is just like I'm not so focused on winning and losing. Like I said it before, like I think a lot of kids get caught up in the winning and losing, and they're not being grateful to just be there. I'm just grateful that I get to wrestle. I get to do what I love. There's a lot of people that do things that, they don't love or they don't want to be doing, especially when it comes to like jobs later in life and stuff like that. And I'm just happy that I get to be, get to do what I love right now, and be in the present right now. Just, being grateful for it. I have so many blessings in my life. So, just being grateful.
What do you focus on improving before you get to campus?
Obviously wrestling is a big part of it, like some things that touch upon coming off this weekend. But I think I said it a lot too, in some of the interviews, is like, I think like the main thing that I'm just kind of focusing on is just like kind of being a leader for this last, few weeks of where I'm at Blair, leaving high school, just for the younger kids on the team and, the kids that are like family to me, just leaving kind of an impact on them, kind of showing them what I expect from them in the coming years, and, just kind of showing them, how to do it. So.
And how do you stay motivated, locked in when there's a lot of hype surrounding you, right? For example, you're already world team trials, you're booked in that championship, and then it's not even guaranteed that, you have to earn it once again. This isn't the final step of it. So how do you when there is all that hype surrounding you, how do you block everything out?
not that I'm blocking it out, but like, just not making it a bigger deal than it is, I'm excited to wrestle again. I get that opportunity. A lot of kids don't get that opportunity. A lot of kids want to be in the position I'm in, but I'm not focused on that. I'm just focused on becoming a better wrestler, becoming a better human, just improving every day, and sometimes it's not even wrestling. Sometimes it's just myself. So I think that's really the main thing.
How would you describe your style of wrestling to Penn State fans that maybe didn't get the chance to watch your U20 performance or what they should expect at the World Team Trials and then eventually when you arrive on campus and wrestle with that Penn State signature?
Yeah. Just honestly, I like to go. It's constant, heavy hands. I hand fight hard. I got multiple ways to score. I like go behinds a lot. I love running corner. I just like to go. I like to hand fight, I like high pace, and that's just kind of my style. So.
Is there a wrestler that maybe you model your game after, whether it's past or present? You talked about working with Marsteller a lot, so there's high level intensity. So who is that wrestler that you really take pointers from, or maybe it's somebody that you don't work with, but you just admire what they do?
Yeah, I don't think I like copy a style at all. I think that everybody kind of, when they get to a certain level, they kind of figure out their own style of wrestling and craft. And I wrestle differently than a lot of people, and I wrestle similarly to a lot of people. I think just the pace part of it. I think like I said, I grew up watching Penn State, so like Zain Retherford is my favorite wrestler. So still is. I just like high pace. A lot of shots, go behinds, that's kind of just where I started picking up and was I want to just be a goer, so I think that's probably the main person at first, but obviously there's a ton of kids on the team that are like that. Levi's like that. I do a lot of things similar to Levi. I watch him a ton. Obviously Messenbrink has that high pace. And then Shane, he came through Blair just like I am. So, watching him too, we're just coming from the same, spot. So I just think honestly, I just think I kind of made my own craft, but I think just watching those guys and kind of putting it together. So.
Let's get into the personal side of William as opposed to just the wrestler. What's something off the mat that people might not expect about you, or just something that you'd like to openly share?
I like basketball. Play basketball quite a bit at school.
Do you like football?
Yeah, I do like dodgeball. I won once in the room, but not everybody was there, and I think there's a few kids taking time off, but I'll take it. It's a hard thing to do. They love their dodgeball. So,
what's the favorite match you've ever wrestled? Early in your wrestling career, or just maybe it's recently at the US Open?
Favorite match? Wow, that's a hard one. Probably my match against Asher this year. That's a fun match. He's a fun kid to wrestle. I think that's really where my offense started to open up. I had a lot of fun matches this year too. I think it's kind of tied with my BC the East finals with Ryan Burton too. Just another, like I said, I'm a goer. So, he got to take down early on me and I had to make it happen. So I think that's exciting to me.
Go to pre-match or practice song or meal or snack?
I recently I've been eating a lot of Uncrustables before matches. I like vitamin water too. Only the dragon fruit one though. Song, probably Hips Don't Lie by Shakira. So that's probably the go-to right now. I use it as my walkout song against Wyoming Seminary. It's a big duel for us. So I think right now that's the main one. It switches though on and off. So it's not like a set in stone thing. But
these are some final questions just to kind of wrap up big picture here. What does it mean to you to represent Penn State on the biggest stage, right?
Yeah.
Now as a commit, U.S. Open World Team Trials, and then being on campus, being a Penn State collegiate wrestler.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next step. Like I said, it's been a dream of mine for a while. So I'm just happy to get there. I'm just happy to start working with Coach Casey and Coach Kale. Just get in that room. They've been texting me a lot. Just like, hey, we can't wait to get you in the room. Can't wait to get you in the room. And I'm excited to get in the room. So I'm just excited to get the work. I'm excited for that next step of wrestling. I want to be in the mix immediately. With these top guys. So, and I think I can be. Like I said, the mentality. So. just keeping it rolling and just getting better at wrestling.
Final question. Do you have a message for the Penn State wrestling fans, the Penn State wrestling community ahead of your official arrival?
No, I mean, I'm just happy to wrestle for everybody, and I'm just happy to put on a show. So I'm excited to be able to do that eventually at some point. So.
That is William Henckel, 79 kilo U20 US Open champion, Penn State wrestling class of 2025 commit. He will be wrestling at the World Team Trials over here in May. William, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck with everything, and this entire journey of yours, and can't wait to see it continue to unfold with your time at Penn State.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And to wrap up this interview, a huge thank you to William for taking time out of his schedule to talk to us in between the U.S. Open and his preparation for the World Team Trials that go down in the state of Ohio, Geneva, Ohio, come the later part of May. And thank you to each and every one of you for checking out this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. If you want to keep up with William, you want to follow his journey through his wrestling career, through his time at Penn State, his socials will be linked down in the description. You can go check them out. If you're new to Locked On Nittany Lions, we are going to be doing more of these, more interviews with wrestlers, also football players too. We're going to have other types of content outside of podcasts and coverage of the teams, but that's still the consistent. If you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts to keep up with all of that. Penn State wrestling, Penn State football, basketball, you name it, it is all right here. Your home for your favorite Penn State sports teams on Locked On Nittany Lions.